Here's my top 10 figures of 2021. Before we get to the actual 10, there's a couple figures I want to mention before, like the Ultimate Edition Stone Cold, the best Stone Cold figure. Also the Marvel Legends Ironmonger, which is huge. And here's the ZD Toys Iron Man Mark 1. He is 7 inches, but he should have been a little bit bigger. Tony. Then we have Ultimate Edition Kane. Surprisingly good figure. Right arm isn't sculpted in red, so you can see that it's painted on. They didn't paint the whole thing, and there's paint chipping on the inside of the arm. And now the last honorable mention, number 11, I guess, the Black Series Jar Jar. Looks pretty cool with a gun. This is a MP5 from the Voliverse Action Force line of weapons. Check them out on Instagram and their store, voliverse.com. The only problem is that his face, he could have had a more Jar Jar like expression. This is kind of he's like sad. Now the biggest disappointing figure of 2021, I'll have to say, is the Marvel Legends Mark III Iron Man. This was pretty disappointing. His arms were really stiff, and I tried to fix mine. I ended up making it worse, so now his arms are like, they just fall off really easy. I thought the figure was weird, it just moved weird, and it has this long mid-torso section here. That's too long. It should be a lot shorter, so it looks weird. It makes his arms look short. So now we can move on to the actual top 10. Number 10, the NECA Macgready from The Thing. This figure has a lot of good things about it. The sculpt and the paint is really nice, and just the overall look of the figure, the way it looks standing there, is also really cool. And the fact that it's a figure from one of my favorite movies is also cool, which is why I had to get it. So, alright, number 9 on the list. So this is the Fat Thor from Endgame. Now this is a custom cape from GPS lot on eBay. That does make him a lot better than the plastic hard cape that he came with. So this figure is pretty cool. I mean, the character in Endgame, I liked the design. I liked the whole thing with, Fat Thor, and he was like a funny guy, and he was fat. And I thought it was cool how he was fat, and then he was still like strong. I think he looks more masculine, so yeah, that's why I like him in the figure. Number 8 is another Marvel Legends figure, which is kind of a two-in-one special. The John Walker Captain America and the John Walker US Agent. Now I customized both of these. This one I painted in the white lines, the white stripes. I also customized him as well, put some American flags on there, and cut the gun that was sticking out of the holster there. Gave him a real gun. This is also from Gridiron Studios, and I like the concept behind the character and the character of US Agent, and I thought the character is represented well in these two figures, and they're both identical, just different colors. Now number 7 was another surprising figure, and that's the Tango Warrior from the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. So this guy is pretty nostalgic for me. I remember him, of course, from the Power Rangers movie, from the show. And yeah, this figure is detailed, good articulation, good sculpt, beak articulation, and he's got good posability, flying pose, fighting pose. His accessories were kind of weird. He came with like this egg thing, which I think is where they came out of. Like they would throw the egg and they would like pop out or something. He also came with like white lightning, which is kind of weird. I don't remember that ever being a thing. I got him for a really cheap price. I got 2 for like, I think almost $20 or under $20 from Old Republic Collectibles. I highly recommend checking out their site. At the number 6 spot, here is the Modular Iron Man. Another nostalgic figure and armor design. This is from the Iron Man cartoon. The design is pretty nostalgic to me, so of course I had to get it. They're still making figures with stiff shoulders that hinge. Like, look how much that stresses when you... That's not okay. Number 5 is kind of an interesting position here. I haven't had this figure for that long, so maybe I need more time with it to be able to give it a more accurate assessment. But it is the Leon LimToys Resident Evil 2 Leon. You can check out my review on this figure too. Some things have happened, like the strap on the holster broke. I lost his flashlight, which kind of sucks. I have the rest of his accessories though, and he comes with a lot of accessories, which is cool. But the reason why I couldn't put him any higher is just his articulation and just how he stacks up to some other cloth 1/12 action figures in my collection. One thing I will mention is that the PW Toys Leon is much better than this one. Good figure, good representation of the character, a lot of accessories, so a lot of options, but I just think he could have been a little bit better in the articulation. Now this was kind of hard for me to figure out how I was going to do this, but the number 5 spot is the G.I. Joe Classified Snake Eyes, the 2-pack with Timber. The other G.I. Joe figures that came out this year, G.I. Joe Classified Lady Jaye, Flint. So these figures, I'm kind of grouping them together in the same spot because it's not really the figures themselves. What I like the most is customizing options. The Snake Eyes is a good figure. He looks cool, especially with Timber, which is surprisingly well designed. So kind of surprising that they would have an animal figure that's this good. But Snake Eyes figure is really cool. This gun, this is a Chris Vector rifle. The eBay seller Bueno312. I recommend checking him out. He's got the best Chris Vectors, which it's a good thing that these are kind of cheap, and which is good because, you know, we're making customs. So here I have this lady, this woman, this female right here. And then of course you can do some head swaps with the Flint figure. And here's a custom painted Ryan Gosling head sculpt from Action Figure Customs. I painted this myself. I think I did a pretty good job. But yeah, that's the best part about these figures, is that you can put different heads on them, give them different weapons from different companies. And I've had a lot of fun with these figures, so I had to put them up pretty high, the number 5th spot. And here's the 3rd spot. Now this one was really hard for me to decide how I was going to rate this figure. I added a wash to the head. It's got a flamethrower pack from Gridiron Studios again. And I did give him a custom historically accurate armband. And with all that stuff, that makes this figure 1,000 times better than the figure is when you buy it straight out of the package. So I wasn't sure how to place this figure. So if you count just how figures are out of the package, he would not be here. I don't think he'd even be on the list. But if we're counting figures that are customized and taking into account the customizing that was done on the figures, then I'd put this figure at 3. But again, if not, if you don't accept customs in your list, even if you're fine with customs being on the list, tied in the number 3 spot, my boy Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is by Beast Kingdom, by the way. This is a great figure, man. A really good representation of Jack Skellington from the movie, you know, from the animation movie. And man, it just looks, he looks awesome just standing there. He comes with a lot of display options. Of course, he's got his dog Zero, which is also cool. He glows in the dark, and he comes with a pair of hands and a head that glows in the dark. And he comes with a bunch of different expressions. I think he has like 7 different heads that you can pick from, different display options. That's what I like about figures, is how expressive they can be, and this figure is very expressive. I also look forward to the Mofex Jack Skellington. Whenever that goes up, I might have to pick that up for the same reason. A lot of expressive options there. And so these two guys are tied for the number 3 spot. And I had a lot of fun playing with this figure, making him comic book accurate. He also looks really cool standing next to this other custom I made. So using the custom I made, I'm not sure what I'm going to name this guy, but he looks pretty cool. He's like some European bad guy. Leave some suggestions on what I should name him. And he looks really cool next to Red Skull. And I guess next to Jack. Maybe they're like a team, the 3 of them. Right now at the number 2 spot, now we're getting a little bit crazy here, but here is the Star Wars Black Series Deluxe Boba Fett. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Boba because of his book of Boba, on Disney Plus. I don't like that show. I think it's pretty boring. I don't like the direction. I don't like the choices. Boba Fett is a cool character. I feel like the Legends comics handle him a lot better with his escape out of the Sarlacc pit. And then, you know, a lot of stuff happens and he's figuring out how is he going to live up to his name of Django. And then he rules Mandalore, and like it's much better written than the Book of Boba, which actually made me come back to this figure when the Book of Boba, you know, when they were talking about the Book of Boba coming out, and when Boba showed up in The Mandalorian, brought me back to this figure, and it brought me to realize that Boba Fett was never meant to be a character that had a lot of time spent like exploring his history or whatever. He was just a mysterious bad guy that worked for Darth Vader, and he wasn't meant to be a main character or anything. And he's cool just as a background character, but you know, like I said, in the comics they treated him a lot better, and this figure to me is the real Boba. And coming in at number 1 is kind of a controversial figure, controversial character. People might get mad at, and there's a lot to say about this figure, a lot to say about this character, a lot to say about the movie he comes from. And the number 1 spot goes to the Patriot Studios Joker. So one thing I do have to point out is that the original body that the figure came with is broken, so I had to replace it. The original Patriot Studios Joker, the body, the shoulder broke, and that was a huge disappointment to me because I like that figure straight out of the box. It was a really good figure. Some of the joints did feel a little stiff, but then like a few days later or a week later his shoulder broke. I ordered a new body. It's a lot cheaper body. The plastics don't match. His hand is like darker than his skin. Yeah, so it is kind of weird, but the amount of fun that I've had with this figure far exceeds any negative from this figure. He did come with some accessories. He came with a cigarette, which of course I lost. He comes with a gun, revolver, which is nice. Quality of the material is very good. It's not cheap. Definitely number 1. I've had so much fun with this figure. I am a fan of the movie. I do like the Arthur Fleck character. So there it is. There's my top 10 list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you want to see any in-depth reviews of any of the figures here that I don't already have reviews of. Let me know if you would have changed some of the figures around in the list. If you would have had a different figure at number 1. Maybe you think Red Skull should be number 1. Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you guys in the next video.